So in our yesterday session, we tried, what we learned in yesterday session, we covered how to create a Bex query from HANA Studio, and how, what is the use of rows, columns, what is initial layout means, and then how to, suppress the result rows for our characteristics in the report, and what else we learn, and how to enable key and text and the key, either key or text or key and text properties in a Bex query. Okay, now what we are going to learn today is the filter section, filter tab. Okay, so yesterday almost we covered about these all the three information here, columns, rows, and free chars also. Okay, we seen how free chars exactly work in the report layout, where user can do analysis based upon the free char section. Initial layout, whatever we design between rows and columns, that will be acts as our initial report layout. Okay, and now today we are going to learn about filter tab. So what are we have in filter, what exactly is a filter fixed values, filter default values. Okay, we are going to learn this topic today. Now before coming to going into technical details, let's see simple things now. Okay, so for example, if you see this report output here, so what exactly this is report output is, what is my report initial layout? My report initial layout is document number from material. So if I try to execute my report one more time here, so I'm taking a new tab here, and I am copying my report technical name from the general tab of my query, copying it, and I'm going to analysis for office, and I'm selecting my report here. I'm going to select data source and then selecting my report and then clicking like this. Okay, here you see when I open this query, so how I get to know whether this query is correct or not, on the design panel here I can see my report technical name SRPCLs Q001. So is it same? Yeah, PCLs Q0, both are matching, so this is the report. Now if you see this is the initial report layout. So when I go here and try to select the data source and open it, directly I'm getting output. Okay, so after selecting my query, I am direct straight away I am getting the report output. Okay, so this is there is no selection screen. So what I say, there is no selection screen here. So what is selection screen means? Here you are trying to fetch data from your composite provider. So whatever data you are seeing at your report output, so from where exactly this data is coming? This data is coming from your composite provider, that is SR underscore P sales. Now how much data you have in this composite provider? Whole data it is coming, it is aggregating into this particular format, and it is displaying on your report, on your report output. In real time, when you go for a composite provider, so these composite providers will be created on top of ADS4s, and ADS4s holds physical data. So because these ADS4s are our test ADS4s, which is having very less amount of information. In real time, these sales ADS4s will store years of information, not 1 or 2 days. It will store years of information, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, based upon the client SAP existence. Okay, it means so whenever the number of years are increasing, the number of records in this DS4 will get increased, and if you try to execute the report without any selection screen, then it will take lot of time for you to get this output. Okay, because it has to process all the data in the DS4s as per composite provider logic, and needs to get your output, so which is not correct. But what is the real intention of creating reports for a user? The real intention of creating reports for a user is to analyze the business and take some decisions out of it. Okay, so when at every point of time user doesn't check his whole historical information. For example, this year is 2022. He don't needs data from 2012 he needs data from 2012 also, but daily they won't check the 2012 data. Okay, in order to decide future decisions and all, mostly they will take 5 to 6 years data. Okay, that is more than enough to predict the historical future information, or to understand how the business is going on. Okay, so it means when we execute the report, it is not required to fetch all data from the composite provider. It is two ways it is not suggestible. One is because of the huge amount of data coming in your report, which takes lot of time to get your output. One thing, and second thing is user don't need all the data to be displayed on report every time. Okay, either you, this is not a business requirement also, at the same time not suggestible approach also to show all data. So for that reason, SAP comes with a selection screen. What is selection screen? So when you executing the report, we will create one, I will show you. So just instead of telling you on theoretical part, if I show you practically, that will give more understandable to you. So what I am going to do is I am taking this created on here, and then I think I don't have anything here. Okay. Yeah, I need to create something here. 1 minute. No. Or else I can show you from here also. So if I right click on my created on date and add to filter by member, and I think this is also doesn't looks much better, but let's create one variable. That is the best way of doing it. I will explain you this one. I will explain this. Just I want to show you this first, and then I will explain. Now, I on the filter section, I added one thing. Okay. So now what I am going to do is I will try to open my report one more time. Okay. I'm going here and I'm trying to open my report. You see now when I trying to open my report, instead of getting the output directly, it is called selection screen or prompt for the selection. Okay, generally what we call it as a selection screen, or selection screen only best way. So what exactly it is asking here? It is asking to provide me the date range. Calendar day means nothing but date range. Okay, so for example, okay, I don't know what data I have. Now I am giving from January 1st till 3/1. Okay, click on OK. So whatever date range I am providing, now I will get data for that date range only. Now let me add created on into my sales stock, before sales order number. If you see here, this is January 1st, 2nd and 3rd, these three dates one. But if I go to my original earlier report, which is without any selection screen, if I bring created on here, you can see you are getting data from January 1st, 2nd, 3rd and February, March also. Now these 3 records are not coming in my report output. Why? Because when executing this report, I provided a selection screen here, with selection January 1st to January 3rd. So what is happening by providing this selection, I am restricting my output. Whatever I am seeing my data in the report, I am restricting with this selection. Only between these dates data only I can see on my report output. Okay, so this is the benefit of having selection screen. So means, for example, if my backend providers are having 10 years of data, then what I can do, I can restrict my data set with calendar month, which can bring data from current month or past month to current month or current January to the current month. So like this, we will create some variables. Okay, we will create some filters. As of now I can say filters, but in BW terminology we call them as a variables. We will create variables and apply as a filter in our query report query side, so that when a user executing the report, it will ask for this selection. So on the selection, for whatever selection user is giving, for that selection they will get the output. Okay, so now simply just to recap, what is the benefit of having filters in the report? Filters means this one. What is the benefit of having filters in the report? Filters will restrict the data output to the value specified in the selection screen, so that instead of bringing whole data from backend to the report level, we will bring only required information into our output. Okay, so then that's the one thing. So now how to create these filters? So in order to create filters, the filters will be created on the characteristics, not on the key figures. So if you want to create any filter, you must create those filters only on the characteristic fields, not on the key figures. It is not possible. So how to create a filter? Filter means nothing but variable here. In order to apply a filter, filter also can be done two ways. One is via this selection screen. If you create a variable, what it is? Variable like this. If you create a variable and apply it here, then it will become in your selection screen whenever you are executing the report. Whenever you are executing the report, one second. Execute report, whatever variable you provided in your query, it will come into the selection screen. The same variable is coming here, and it is taking this input and giving the output. And there is another kind of filter you can apply, that is called hard-coded filter. So now you see, with this variable filter created on date, I am fetching data from January 1st to 3rd for which materials? All the materials M1, M2, M3, M5. I can see different materials are there. Now what I am going to do is, now I am bringing material into this filter section. Okay, filter section, I am bringing material. So now on this material, what happened? Yeah, so material came here. Now what I am going to do is, on this material, right click here, there is an option called restrict. Okay, go to restrict. When you go to restrict, it is asking for values. You see, here we have multiple tabs are there: history, values, variables, hierarchy nodes. Okay, so values are nothing but whichever values are there in the master data of this material, you can see those values here. If you go to variables, you see on the left hand side, I created one variable. If this kind of variables are available for this material, you can see those. At this point of time, there are no variables created on my material info object. So that's why there are no variables here. Now I am going to values and I am selecting M1. I am double clicking on M1. It came to right hand side. I am clicking on OK. So now what is this? This is not a variable. This is called hard-coded filter. Okay, constant filter, you can say. Okay, so when you are giving a value, it means a value of an info object as a filter, then we call it as a constant filter. Okay, now if I execute this report one more time, these constant filters you cannot see on your selection screen. Now I am going to my analysis for office. I am trying to fetch my data one more time. If you see here, still you see only calendar day as a selection on the selection screen. You cannot see this material. Why? Because here I am not applying any variable. On your selection screen you can see only variables, not any other filters. Okay, so M1 is a constant filter. Now how exactly this filter is going to apply here? Now I am clicking on OK of my report. Now this report will fetch data from 1001, January 1 to January 3rd. But see, it is fetching only M1 material information. Actually, for this date range, we have M1, M2, M3, M5 information also. But our output was now restricted to M1 only. How come? How it is means, in the report level, you given one constant filter. Okay. So now what happened is, when you execute a query, system will pass on, create a select query on your composite provider with these selections. Now this on this material column, it is hard coding it to where material is equal to M1. For that reason, only M1 data will come into your output. For example, if you add here, you can add multiple, multiple single values you can add. Go here and add M2 also this time. Now what will happen, because of constant filter with M1, M2, then it will, now this time if you try to execute the report, it will fetch only M1 and M2 for the given date range. For this date range, whatever, for all the, on all the data, it will again filter on M1, M2 materials. So I'm going into my report. I'm selecting here. I'm going here. So, selecting my report one more time and say giving same date range. But now see, this time I'm getting M1 and M2 also. Why? Because I changed my filter with two constant values. Okay, so this kind of filter is called as constant filter, and the above filter is nothing but variable filter. It means user, we are giving a flexibility for user to change this provide this value at runtime. But these kind of fixed values, we are not giving any feasibility. At any point of time, user cannot see other materials information on this report. He cannot edit also. There is no edit option also here. Okay, because you are giving it as a fixed filter here. But for the selection screen, if you go to prompt and then prompt for the data source, again, if you want to see whole data, for example, 2022 to 2023, which is whole range, whole year, then you see you can get other data also. For example, I think we don't have data for other ones. For example, let's go here and prompt for the data source. Give here 23. Click on OK. Now you see you have other information also, which is from other months. Okay, let me bring here calendar day. Maybe that will see. You see here I can see February data. Earlier I can see only January to January data only. Since I changed my selection screen to year end, so I am getting now February data also. If I change back again to this 2022, then I will get only again January 1st to 3rd information only. Okay, so using variables, we are providing a flexibility user to change the selection and see the output as per his requirement. But if we provide filters, in a constant way, then there is no flexibility to the user. User cannot change this query at any point, filter at any point of time. Okay, so if I remove this one, for example, for now, and then click on save button and try to execute this same query. How to execute same query one more time? Just select the query, go to refresh all, and then refresh data source. It will re-execute the query. And now this time I'm still not getting reset data source. Sorry, reset data source. Click on OK. Now you see I am getting all the materials information now. Okay, because I removed the filter on the material. Okay. Now come to the variable section. Earlier I didn't explain you regarding this variable, right? So what exactly this variable, what are the different options we have in the variable? Now we will look into it. Okay, so now how to create a variable now I will show you how to create a variable by creating a variable on the material side. So if I expand my material info object, there are two tabs are there. One are attributes, characteristic values. Attributes are nothing but because G material is a master data info object of type attribute. That's why you are seeing the attributes information here. Okay, these are attributes. And then values are nothing but in this master data, whatever values currently we have, all those you can see under characteristic values. So these are all the materials from the master data. Okay. Now, if you create variables, then you will see one folder like this, characteristic value variables. At this point of time, for G material, there are no variables created. That's why it is not showing. Now I am going to right click here, new variable. So when you are creating a new variable, system will ask you the technical name and description of it and type of variable, processing type, reference characteristic, variable reference. So all these are different options. It's mandatory to provide the technical name of your variable. So how you are going to provide your technical name? So each project may have their own naming convention when creating their in variables. So now how I am going to teach you is, so in my point of view, when I am creating a variable, I will give the info object name as initial in a starting section. So this info object on which I am creating my variable is G material. So I am giving the name as G material. This is only the half part of the my variable name. After that, underscore. Okay. After underscore, I am going to provide some more, letters here. What are those letters? A variable can be of multiple types. It may be optional. Yes, you see, a variable type can, no, 1 second, not this one. A variable type can represent multiple things. Variable represents. So what represents means it can, for example, in the report, what we are seeing here, if you see the selection screen, you see what is this? There is a low value, high value. This one we call it as an interval. Okay, what we call this one? This one we call as an interval. Okay, if I go here, variable represents interval. In the same way, there is another option called single value, which means you cannot see this high value here. When single value means you can only provide single value at any point of time, like M1, M2, M4. Any one value only you can provide if you choose single value. Interval means you will get low and high values. Multiple single values means you can able to add multiple single values to your report. It means M1, M2 also you can provide. Okay. In the same way, selection optional means where if your user doesn't know, like it's user wish, either he can provide single value, multiple single values, or interval. If it's a user choice, then we go for selection option, because when we select this variable represents as selection option, we are giving all the functionalities of single value, interval, multiple single values. Okay, so pre-calculated, I'm not yet done, so we will look into this later point. At this point of time, what I am going to do is, already we seen how interval looks like. Now let's see how multiple single values looks like. I am giving multiple single values. So when I give multiple single values here, now here I will give M. M means multiple, no, here it is, and before that mandatory. One more option is there. Here in the selection screen, if you see in the selection screen, there is another important thing. You see there is a star mark. What exactly the star mark means? Star mark means here mandatory. Means, for example, if you are trying to execute the report without giving anything, you see the OK button was not enabled at all. What it means, the star represents mandatory. For example, when you are filling online forms or any application, there will be some mandatory fields to be filled. Without filling those mandatory fields, system doesn't allow you to go to the next screen at all, right? This is also such kind of functionality. When you see the star mark on the variable, it means it is a mandatory variable. Definitely you have to give some value. So then what I will give here, I will give January here. Click on OK, and I am giving here March. See, for example, if I'm not giving anything and clicking on OK, let's create it on. You see, I got January data only. Now what exactly happened here? How you can see it? Go to information tab. You see, on the information tab, you can able to see what filter system is applying. When you are not giving anything on the high section, system will copy the value from low to high. For that reason, now I can see only January 1st data because it is copied. Okay, no? So now what the other type here is, it is star means mandatory. If the star is not there, then it is optional. It means without that selection also you can execute the report. Without providing any value also you can execute the report if the star is not available. So when I am creating my variable, so I will start with representing whether it is optional or mandatory. Okay, so let me take notepad. So my first option I will go is optional or mandatory. It means simply it is either O or M. O means optional, M means mandatory. So what is my second option? So here I am going to create this material as an optional info object. Okay. After that, what I am going to do is I am going to represent my variable represents the information. If it is single, I will give as single, interval, multiple single values, optional, right? So what I am going to do is when I define a variable, in my point of view, this is a good way. So I learned it some one of my project. If it is single value, I will represent with S. If it is multiple single values, I represent with M. If it is interval, I represent this with I. If it is selection optional, I will represent it as O. Okay. Now in our example, I am going to make it as a multiple single values. So it means I need to give it as a M. It means my variable names starts with the G material info object name followed by either mandatory or optional. Here it is optional. And then I'm going to make it as a multiple single values and then the final one. So the final one more letter which I provide is this type of processing by. In the processing by, we have multiple options are there: manual input, replacement path, customer exit, and these three are XAP exit, HANA exit, authorization. These two are new and the remaining four are older options only. Okay. What is manual input? Manual input means on the selection screen, if system asking you to provide something, then it is nothing but manual input. Okay. If without asking, system itself is giving something and it is processing, then it is nothing but customer exit. Okay. So now what I am going to do, I am going to make it as a manual input. So in case of manual input, I will give I, and if it is a customer exit, I will give here C, and if it is a replacement path, then I will make it as R, and if it is authorization, I will make it as A. In our case, it is a manual input, so I will make it as a I underscore 0. So these three are the very important options you are setting to your variable. Okay, one is either it is an optional variable or a mandatory variable. That option currently you cannot see it here. I will show you after clicking on next button. And then second one is the variable represents multiple single values or whatever it is. And final one is processing by manual input. So I'm going to give OM underscore I followed by one numerical in your number. This is nothing but counter. If it's with the same options, if you want to create another variable, then you can do it. So why exactly we need to create another variable with same options? Because when you're creating a variable, you will create some text here created on. This is my text here created on. When someone wants to, okay, let it be like this, click on finish button. If someone wants to create same kind of variable with a different description, then they can give here 02. So for that reason, I am giving this numerical counter here. Now you see, I told you, right, my first letter in my variable is O. O means optional. That option, you can see it here. Okay, optional, mandatory with initial, mandatory without initial. I will let you know what are these two. So currently optional. Now click on save button. So when you click on save button, system created a variable. Once system created a variable, if you go to your report and expand your material, then system will bring, show another folder like this, variables folder. Under this, you can see your variable. Now what you need to do, you need to bring material here and then add this variable here. Automatic, whenever you drag and drop with this variable into your filter section, since this variable was created on top of material, automatically it will be come under material info object. Okay, so now that's it. So these two are done. Now clicking on save of my query. Now let's try to execute this query. Cancel this one and go into new sheet, select insert, select the sales report. Now you see there are two variables now. Why two variables? Because I defined two variables in my filter section. One for created on, one for material. You see the description how exactly it is looking like. The same you can see it on the selection screen also. Created on and calendar day. But what is the difference here? Calendar day. Yeah. So one more point here you need to learn is created on is coming. Where exactly created on second and third. You see the sequence. If you want to show created on the top, calendar day on the below, you can do it by going to general section and by going to this variable order. you have an option to, jumble the selection screen sequence. Now I am adding material on the top, date on the below, clicking on save button. Now I will close my report one more time here. I will try to run one more time, sales report. Now you see material came on the created. Oh, sorry, one second. I am creating my variable for material and I given wrong description, right? Sorry for that. It's a material. Sorry, very sorry. It is material actually. That's why a little bit confused here. So material. Now let me go here. Cancel this and insert data source, sales report. You see material came bottom. Wait. I'm very sorry. I'm doing something wrong. For which I changed my variable name. I changed the variable name for this one. Sorry. Here it must be created on. And this variable under material, this must be material. So I given wrong description, sir. So sorry for this news. Click on save button. Now if I try to execute my query again, then I will get a correct, go to here, sales report. Now you see material came on the top, created on came on the below. How it happened? By changing this sequence automatically, you can sequence your variable selections. But what was recommendable here? There are two ways are there. Always save it to apply those changes at the report level. So there are two things. Generally, in projects, in real-time projects, some of the project members, they will ask, keep all mandatory fields on the top, followed by the optional fields. That is one way of, designing your query. And the other way is keep everything in alphabetical order. For example, created on C. So comes first, material M comes later. So based upon the initial letter of your variable, they will ask you to keep in the sequence so that, whenever, for example, if he is having some other field like a plant, they will directly, because on the selection screen, sometimes there is a requirement to have at least 20 to 30 fields also on the selection screen. In that case, if the alphabets are in sequential way, alphabetical order way, then based upon their variable name, they can directly go to that particular field instead of searching it on the entire 30 fields. So it's completely purely based upon the user requirement, whether to keep this order of these variables in either keep mandatory on the top and optional on the later part, or completely sort based upon the alphabetical order. Okay, either two ways you can see in the real-time reports. And now coming to this optional report, you see, if I don't give any selection to the material and click on OK, still report will run. Okay, that is the benefit of optional field. If, for example, if I am not giving anything on the mandatory field and giving selection on the material, this time also system doesn't allow to execute the report until unless you provide values to your query. Okay. And now coming to this optional field, two things. Either if you wish, you can give the selection, or without selection also you can execute. But this is a multiple single values, right? If it is a single value, then you will see only like this. Because this variable is a multiple single value, you are seeing this plus symbol next to it. If I clicking on this plus symbol, what happens? One more line is coming to provide further inputs. I am giving M3 here and clicking on OK. Now what happens? Now only M1 and M3 comes into my output and nothing else comes into my output. Okay. So now what happening? Now your query will fetch only the data for the selection you are providing here. For the date range 1, 2, 3 and M1 to M3 is the materials what you are giving. So if you want to add M5 also, now click on OK. Yeah, if it is there, then it will fetch for M5 also. So like this, you can create filters in your query. So far today what we learned about how to create a variable and what is the importance of having filters in the report, and what are the two different kind of filters we can apply. One is a fixed filter, another one is a filter with variable. Okay, filter with variable, we learned how to provide naming convention. So this is what kind of naming convention I follow, but in real-time projects they will let you know how the naming convention will be. So you need to provide naming convention according to the naming convention document of your project. So next what we learned what is the difference between mandatory variable and the optional variable. So mandatory variable means definitely you need to input type optional, input type mandatory. So under mandatory we have multiple options. I will let you know what is that also. But mandatory and selection option, mandatory and optional variable, now you know the difference. And then while selecting this variable, we have multiple processing types are there. So what are those processing types? Single, multiple single, interval. This is interval, and selection optional. So now you already I showed you how single value looks like, multiple single values, interval looks like. Now optional value I didn't show you, but we can see one example tomorrow on the selection optional also. And then when coming to this processing by manual input only currently we covered, but to cover customer exit we must have ABAP knowledge. And the replacement and path and authorization I will cover at the end of Bex reporting. We will work on this too. And what else I can show you here on the selection. So yeah, now let's go to the assignment, covering these scenarios. Okay, now going back to the assignment topic. So in our yesterday assignment we created a query. On the query we given on the row section material, and on the column section we added quantity and amount, free care section document number item created on currency unit. Okay, and suppress result rows for all the rows. So this is your yesterday assignment. Now today what you are going to do is now I am going to give you further assignment on the same flow. If you are following this particular assignment, it will be easy for you to follow this. Okay, and I will so now you have a composite provider where where you are adding this two cubes, right? Initially when you created a composite provider, you added two cubes in it. One is two cubes of same structure. Now what I am going to ask you is, what is your ADS for structure? Your ADS for structure contains these are the fields. Now what I am going to ask you is which one? Create new standard of type cube, create new standard of type cube. So 2 and 3 are the cubes which you are adding in your composite provider, right? Now today assignment is sorry. So today assignment is drop data from the cubes. Means drop means delete the data from the cubes. These cubes. Okay. XX pieces. One second. These two. Create the data from the cubes. Cell 02 and 03. These are the two cubes, and then add below info objects in the above two cubes. So which info objects you need to add? 0 Calman, 0 cal year, 0 1 second, 0 Calman, 0 cal year, and you can add yeah. Okay, 0 Fisk variant, 0 Fisk variant, and 0 Fisk per. So these are the four info objects you are going to add. These are all the standard info objects. So zero Fisk variant, info object. I'm a little bit doubt on the technical name of this info object. Let me check quickly. This D1 zero Fisk. Info object zero Fisk. Time dimension. This is the time dimension related info object, zero physical variant. This is one info object which I need to give proper technical name because this is a standard info object, so you can use it. No need to create a custom info object for this one. Again, I want to add one more zero physical period, right? Let me check this one also. Zero physical period, zero physical. Yeah, I given correct naming convention only. So add below info objects in the about two cubes, okay, and derive proper mapping for these fields. From actually proper mapping means nothing but these needs to be mapped from your which field of your write optimized IDSO from the created on field, because from date only we are going to derive this fiscal period. But when deriving this fiscal period and fiscal variant, you may have a requirement to have the fiscal variant also. Okay, then how you are going to handle this fiscal variant? Without fiscal variant, I think system cannot bring fiscal period here. So what I am going to do is I am going to do one more thing. Drop data from the ADSO, write optimized ADSO. So you created one write optimized ADSO before to this cube flow. Created started ADSO cell 01, this one. ADSO and add a new field, fiscal variant. So what was the technical name of this info object? Zero Fisk VARNT. Okay, and at transformation level, map it as a constant K4. Okay, so you map this physical variant as K4 at a transformation level with a constant option. Okay, and then drop data from the cube and so you have physical variant in your below layer, and cubes also you have physical variant. Do one-to-one mapping. Do one-to-one mapping for the physical variant. So for the time dimensions, do proper mapping from the created on field, and for the fiscal period, fiscal variant, you need to do mapping using these two things. I teach you how to do mapping for fiscal variant and fiscal period in our earlier session. So now what we are going to do now, next, add the above new fields, not add, bring the above new fields into the composite provider. Okay, I'm not teaching each and everything at a minor level. So by this point of time, you are able to understand this. Whatever fields you are adding to this cube type ADSOs, you need to bring them to composite provider output. Okay, now after bringing this into composite output, now at query. Okay, composite provider means, maybe you may ask what is the composite provider name. So let's take the composite provider name also from here. So what was our composite provider name? This is our composite provider name. Okay, so now at query level, create a filter, filter on calendar month with below options. So I am asking you to create a filter, means it is nothing but I'm asking you to create a variable and then apply it on the query level. Okay. So this calendar month must be mandatory, single value or interval value. Okay. Mandatory interval value, and then input manual input. So using these properties, you need to create your variable, apply it on the report selection filter screen. Okay. Similarly, create another filter on material. So calendar month means nothing but here it is a 0 cal month info object, just for clarity. And when I'm asking to create another filter on material, means we have material info object, right? So which is this is GXXM. So on this material info object, create a new variable, create a filter on material by with the constant filter on M1 and M3. So already you are creating a variable to learn this concept. So I am giving you, some options to, filter with constant selection. So in our data, we have already M1 and M3. So, but, I am asking you to give only M1 then. M3 is not available at this point of time, M1 only. Okay. Now then try to bring the output of this one. Okay. At a side. So this is the assignment from here. So from here to here, this is the assignment for today's session, which is covering all the concepts which we discussed today. Okay, I'm saving this one and I'm stopping recording.